living water, Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. Yahusha, living water, Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. I'll sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I'll sing out with praise to you. My heart desires to honor you, my God. I sing out with praise to you, Yahusha, living Torah, Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. Yahusha, living Torah, Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. I sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I sing out with praise to you. My heart desires to honor you, my God. I'll sing out with praise to you, Yahusha, living Torah, Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah.
Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuwah our Elohim. Yahuwah is one. And you shall love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Glad everybody made it. All righty. Let me see now. Let me tone this down a bit. And put out my invite here. My welcome banner, I should say. And there it is. And there we go. All set. Okay, so yeah, it's been a fantastic week, man. Blessings upon blessings from Yahuwah. Love upon love, peace upon peace, joy upon joy. Wow. Yahuwah is awesome. All right, so as we assemble in obedience this evening, I think we're going to talk about an important topic that has different implications to it, but nevertheless, I think it's something that most of us need to have a restudy on. And for some of us that don't know these things, this should be a shocker to some of you. And so what we're going to talk about here this evening is violence, violence, violence to the Torah. Violence to the Torah. What they've done to Yahuwah's amazing word of truth. Okay, so let me go say hi to a few people here, and then we'll get started. Peggy Russell, glad you're here, sister. Torah, glad you're here, sister. The treasure Yahuwah, glad you're here, sister. Kinsley Ya Natsarim Mishpaka, glad you're here, sister. Mr. 3 Jobs, glad you're here, brother. Ronald Sternberg, glad you're here, brother. Sandra Brunson, glad you're here, sister. Praise Yah, glad you're here. Yami Koto, glad you're here, sister. Raul Koto, glad you're here, brother. Isaiah Diaz from El Paso, glad you're here, brother. Kate Connell, glad you're here, sister. Letta Ring, glad you're here, sister. Wanja Mary, glad you're here, sister. Chad from Texas, glad you're here, brother. All righty. Well, there we go now. We got a good start. Looks like people are still trickling in. But we'll go ahead and get started. Got lots to cover. Right on, Ronald. I'm glad your wife's getting better, brother. Okay, so violence to the Torah. There's really nowhere to start but from the beginning. So the original manuscripts, if you will, probably the first written down Torah was Moshe was assigned to do it by Yahuwah. And of course, there's debates over the date, but it was roughly, give or take, a few hundred years, we'll say, around 1500 BC. Then, of course, as we go through the time period, the prophets was collected and added to it, and the writings starting with Psalms was collected and added to it in order to come up with a canonized list. And then through the first century, of course, was the Nazarene, memoirs of the Nazarene, or the Nazarene writings were recorded, and they were collected and added to it, all in an attempt to put it all into one source, one book. And this was done during the Roman rule of Constantine, which would have been right around the 4th century, early 4th century, 321, so forth and so on. And then, of course, the Vulgate came. The Latin Vulgate came in around approximately 400 AD. And then it just kept going from there. You had Wycliffe about 1350 or 80, and Tyndale around 1525, Coverdale around 1535, Matthews 1537, the great scripture, what they called the Bible, was 1539. The Geneva came in around 1560. Bishops about 1568. Dewey 1610. The King James first edition came 1611. Then there was a standard version of the King Jimmy came out in the 1700s somewhere. 1700s. And then there was a revised version of the King Jimmy that came out in 1881. And then the American Standard, 1901. And from there, there's just a ton of them. Okay. And it's the scriptures have been translated into probably every language on the planet at this time that we're living in. And so, as you can imagine, starting at the original manuscripts, starting with Moshe and the Torah, the prophets, the writings, and the Nazarene writings up into the 1st century, we're all in Hebrew. So the original authors were Hebrews. These were all written in Hebrew. Greek didn't even know about Yahuwah. Very few, or even the Latins, very few knew about Yahuwah. The Babylonians way back knew a little bit about Yahuwah because they heard Yahuwah's people talking and pronouncing his name, in which they were mocked and made fun of, so they decided to hide the name. And only the high priest was allowed to verbally express the name, the true name, in public, and so on, so forth and so on. So it was all Hebrew. So the original manuscripts, which we do not have, unfortunately, they weren't even passed down fully, but were partially copied and lost over the years. But as time went on, and the Latins and the Greeks began to hear about Yahuwah from the Hebrew, of course, then they got real interested, and they wanted the scriptures of the Hebrew text in their own language so they could understand it better. And so the nightmare began. And so eventually, when it got up to the Latins and the Latin Vulgate around 400 AD, we'll just say, the Latins were in power, and they were not allowing anybody to write anything in any other language but Latin. They didn't want English translations or any other language other than Latin, and by the penalty of death, by the way. And so they took and they created a religion called Catholicism, which is universalism, is what it really means. And it was an attempt to synchronize, or syncretism, synchronize all the different religions and names of mighty ones and culture thing all into one pot. They want to become a melting pot, similar to what the United States is. And so once they started doing that, they took control. And of course, to get people interested and to people to follow their lead or their plan, what they were trying to accomplish, of course, then they had to inject things that were comfortable for these different people and these different cultures, and so that they could melt them together and try to create one religion and one government, one leader, so forth and so on. Kind of like what they're trying to do today. So they haven't forgotten about their plan. They're still continuing to try to work things out. We can witness that today with the One World Bank, the One World Order, the One World Religion agenda or initiative, the Coexistence Initiative, all these different things that they're trying to do. So ain't much change. There's just repeating until they want to continue to do it till they get it right, I guess. Okay, so now what happened through all this? These changes, all these translations going in and out of different languages and copies after copies and translations after translations, we now have a mess. Matter of fact, it got so bad and people got so mean-spirited about it and wanting to take over and control the world that they actually started trying to get rid of opposition. And the first on the top of their list, enemy number one, were the Hebrew. And so they began to genocide the Hebrew, wipe out the Hebrew, go to war with them, annihilate them. They went into their libraries, they went into their synagogues and their temples, they destroyed them, tried to wipe out all written history, all kinds of anything Hebrew. They wanted to get rid of it. They kind of wanted to wipe them off the history of the earth, so nobody even knew about them, so they could take totally over. Of course, Yahuwah wasn't going to allow that. And so through this attempt, we lost a lot of the Hebrew, evidence of the Hebrew. And so they were able to convince upcoming generations that all this religious business started through the Greeks, through the Gentiles, and through the Latins. So we need to understand that, that what they're saying is the scriptures and Yahuwah, everything, all the religious stuff, okay, started with Gentile nations. Well, that's totally against scriptures. That's pretty obvious. Israel was the only country that knew Yahuwah. And the other ones, all the other countries were Gentile or pagan countries, worshiping paganism, astrology, horoscopes, demons, voodoo, whatever. Okay, they were evil people. They were running around dreaming up gods, carving them out of stone and wood with their own hands, carrying them, sitting them somewhere on high, and bowing down to them. Okay, so how in the world are we to credit them with truth? Well, we don't, unless you fall for their lies, of course, their falsehood, their false teaching. Um, and unfortunately, many do, because through the years they've been able to hide these things in plain sight. They've been able to masquerade as ministers of light. They've been able to pretend like they're Yahuwah's chosen people, and that they've, all the only translations we have available to us are Codex Alexandrius, Codex Vaticanus, and Codex Sinaiticus, and some other writings, Targums and such, the Aramaic Targum and the Egyptian Targum and things like this, right? And so the reason that is because they destroyed everything Hebrew. That's why we don't have it, man. And so all these copies that were copied from the Hebrew over into the Greek or the Latin end up being some of the oldest codexes we have, simply because they destroyed the Hebrew. If any of the Hebrew exists, it would be probably in the Vatican. And so they were able to roll with this for quite a while, until in the early 80s, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, and other manuscripts that was found as well in the deserts in Egypt, Ethiopia, and some other places, which contained the true name of our Creator, which was Yahuwah. Okay, and even in the Nazarene writings, they claim to have an original copy, and even their church circus fathers admitted to it, that a copy of Matthew was found in its original text, which they claim nobody has seen it. They're not showing it, but half of it's in Paleo Hebrew and half's in Aramaic is what they claim, but nobody really knows. But what they do know is the name Yahusha is found in that, written in there. And so through all these years now, and by the way, around the time that they found the Dead Sea Scrolls in the early 80s, I was a young man just starting out my family and stuff. And all of a sudden, they come out with the New King James Version. Oh, everybody had a fit about that. Oh, no, we can't be doing that. The King James Version is the oldest, translation there is. It fell out of the Shemayim down to us from Yahuwah. We can't do that. So they quarreled over that one, but nevertheless, they published the New King James Version. And lo and behold, within the pages of that New King James Version was the name Yah, Y-A-H, similar to exactly what I have on my shirt here. And this is one of the places it's written in the New King James. So it's in Psalm 68:4, Isaiah 12:2, Isaiah 26:4, and Isaiah 38:11. And so they conceded, I guess, to the fact that his name didn't start with a J, which didn't show up in the English language well into the 17th century. Actually, less than 500 years ago. So anyway, with all the evidence of his name being Yah or Yahuwah, with the 4 vowels written in Paleo Hebrew all over the Dead Sea Scrolls, they really didn't have much choice, did they? Other than to put his name Yah in their translation, the New King James Version. So anyway, through all this, corruption, I'm going to call it. They weren't copying what they had word for word from the Hebrew text. So since they lost that or hid his name, they did all this stuff, they began to commit violence against the Torah, man, is what they did. And this was seen, and this was a prediction. We can find it in scriptures. It was prophesied that they would do this. Yahuwah is not fooled by their shenanigans. It's written in the word that they would do that. And also is why the earth will be destroyed by fire. Well before they begin monkeying with Yahuwah's words, he said, yeah, they're going to monkey with my words, and I'm going to destroy the world because they're doing that. And so time rolled, and they began to mess with the scriptures of truth to the point of we almost can't even recognize it at this point. Matter of fact, I'll go as far as saying it's a stratagem of the devil now because of how much violence they've done to it. So it's a subtle advancement. They couldn't do it all at once because people would know what they were doing. So they slowly changed things and added things. People died and other people came in and replaced them. And so some were executed because they wouldn't do what the controllers wanted them to do with the word of truth and so forth and so forth. And they killed them. It's like the guy that that didn't write crooks. Instead, he wrote staros, which is gotten from the Hebrew word nas, which means single pole, a pole. That he was hung on a pole, staros. And the guy wouldn't put crooks. And that's what they wanted. The controllers wanted him to write was crooks. And he didn't, so they killed him. And I believe he was beheaded. So anyway, it happened over a period of time, very subtly, so people wouldn't take notice as much. And the ones that did notice, they just killed them. So what did they end up doing? Well, they've done a tremendous violence to the Torah. They've done a tremendous misrepresentation of Yahuwah's word and passed it down to the innocent. Is what they've done. We're fortunate today that we have people that understand these things. Yahuwah has woken people up, and they have reverse translated these English translations and other translations and used the Dead Sea Scrolls and other sources and have been able to restore the Hebrew text very closely to what it originally was. Okay, especially the Torah. And so the Greek translations is mind blowing because out of approximately 3,000 Greek translations, either fully or partially, not one of them are the same. Matter of fact, not even one sentence in those 3,000 translations are exactly the same. So it's a mind-blowing, stunning, really staggering, if you will, phenomenon. That all these 3,000 translations are all different. Not even one sentence is exactly the same. And so what does that tell us? That tells us that every person that grew up and wanted to be a copyright or a scribe, a writer, translator, interpreter, whatever, wanted to change it to make it lean towards what he thought. It's kind of an amazing stat, really. And so that happened. I mean, it's almost ridiculous. And then, of course, the Latin Vulgate had a big part in the King Jimmy in the 17th century. The funny part about the King James Version is that there's many people out there who actually believe that the apostles okay, Yahushua's Talmudim, his students, what they call apostles, were using the King Jimmy. Even Yahushua himself was teaching out of the King Jimmy. It's almost crazy. That's how badly everybody's brainwashed with this history, not really knowing the history. They surely don't teach it in the circuses. You know, if you're going to find out anything about the history, you're going to have to do it on your own account. So your circus down on the corner down there ain't going to teach it to you. Very unlikely. Okay, so I believe they teach that the King James is the original manuscript. I think some of them do say that, which is mind-numbing. It puts shivers on me. So anyway, what else have they done? Well, they removed the true name of Yahuwah. Okay, they took his name out 6,823 times. And in the Netzarim writings, they took out Yahushua's name 216 times for a total of about 7,039 times. And they replaced Yahuwah's name and Yahushua's name with devices or substitute names that related to their culture, not the Hebrew culture. They wanted to remove the Messiah from the Hebrew, make him Greek. That's in Latin. You can see that in the portraits that are sold all over the place. He's an Anglo-Saxon, blonde hair, blue eye Messiah. Looks like a Roman is what they made him out to be. But the Greeks said, we're going to have no part of that. Oh, no, he was a Greek. They got their way a little bit because they got to name him with a Greek name, the J-Man. That's a Greek name. It means nothing in Hebrew. It definitely has a meaning in Greek, but it means zero in Hebrew, which is a huge proof that it's not a Hebrew name, because Hebrew names have a meaning to them. They mean something. So it doesn't mean anything. It must be having origins in some other culture. And in this case, it would be Greek. So the J-Man is a Greek name that wasn't even spelt with the J. So it's morphed into something that is not even identifiable anymore, because it's a mixture now, I guess. But it's really meant to combine a Greek and a Roman, a God. You know, the J-Man is SESUS, and then Christ, acting like that's his last name or something, is Latin for Krishna. So together, J-Man Christ. So they changed his name to try to make him believable as being a Greek or a Latin, or perhaps a mixture of the two. So anyway, they removed his name over 7,000 times. The King Jimmy added many words. They put them in italics, slanted them. So they were admitting that they added, but they don't really admit that they removed, but they did many things. And the NIV admits to all this, okay, removing words and even complete sentences from their scriptures. A lot. Hundreds. In their prefaces, the NIV's prefaces, and some other ones too, admits removing his true name and replacing it with these devices or substitute names. Okay. And they changed appointed times. They replaced them with holidays. The KJV added Easter instead of Passover in one of their verses. They added footnotes. They, in order to direct you into their way of thinking or their teaching, they twisted the meaning of many Hebrew idioms, and some they just wrote plainly to make people read that literally, which everybody should know that an idiom or parable is not meant to be taken literal. It means something totally different than what it's saying. Totally different. So to leave that in a literal sense is criminal. It really is. You won't find that in any of their footnotes. They twisted and spun some of the scriptures and so that it would sound like, or at least get your mind relating what's being done here into a Greek or a Latin customs or language or mindset or society. They move you from the poetic Hebrew into their way of thinking, their concrete way of thinking. So then they changed the Yahuwah's Shabbat rest day to the first day and called it the Lord's day and twisted that up in the translations. They changed everybody's name, nearly everybody's name, to either English or a Latin, Roman, or a Greek name. They even had the audacity and the nerve to change the 10 love commands in the Catholic versions and everybody associated with them. So altogether now, we have over 250 denominations here in the United States of America, all believe in something different than what's written. Why? Because there's too much chaos and confusion through all these translations and all these revisions and all these improperly translated over and over again from one language to another and back to it and then over to another one, so forth and so on. And so people, they said, well, this is not what this don't understand, so this is showing contradiction, this and that. Can't mean that. So they decided to cherry pick, create a denomination, which became a religion, or a spin-off of a religion. I think there's 6 major religions and they all spin off of them in some fashion. But staggeringly, there's over 45,000 denominations globally. So 250 in the good old USA and over 45,000 denominations globally. That's a staggering number. What's that tell you? There's some people who are confused out there. That's what that tells you. Okay, and then maybe one of the most sickening things for me is that they changed the name of Yahuwah to G-O-D. Now that is a name. There's something like L-O-R-D, other things like that, or these are devices. But a G-O-D is a flat out a substitute name. They took away our Creator's name, Yah, and replaced it with G-O-D, which was the name of the Teutonic northern tribesmen, the Norsemen's G-O-D. That was his name. And it, depending on where they were located up there in Viking land or Anglo land, They would call him GAD or GOTT or GOD. And so they brought that name down and changed and took away Yahuwah, and renamed him God in order to pull and influence the Norsemen down into their reign, the Roman kingdom, and become part of their one world government, one world religion system. And they needed that influence, so they said, "Whoa, they worship the same mighty one we do. They're calling on the name of God. Maybe they are cool. Let's go check them out." So anyway, it was for influence. So what a mess we have, right? I mean, come on now. It's a total mess. And this big mess is called violence against the Torah. So we're going to get into that now. The first time that we are told that the Yahuwah's instructions, or his Torah, which Torah means instructions, was written was in Deuteronomy. And if we go to Deuteronomy 31:24 through 27, it says, "And it came to be when Moses had completed writing the words of this Torah in a book until their completion, that Moses commanded the Levites who bore the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, saying, Take this book of the Torah, and you shall place it beside the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, your Elohim, and it shall be there as a witness against you. For I myself know your rebellion and your stiff neck. See, while I am still alive with you today, you have been rebellious against Yahuwah, then how much more after my death?" So there you go. The Torah, with all the prescriptions of the old priesthood, was placed beside the ark in the Holy of Holies after Moshe completed it. He was commanded by Yahuwah to write them down. Okay, and now the prophets came as time progressed. The writings came as time progressed. After they did a collection of all these writings, sacred writings they call them, and they stacked them all in front of a council that was put together by Constantine. They picked and chose which ones they wanted to create, put together into a single book called the Bible. So as you can imagine, a lot of writings were thrown out and voted unacceptable by the controllers. They made that decision for all of us. Why didn't they make a category of books? They could have went like an encyclopedia set, but no. They don't throw what the ones they didn't like out, burn them up so nobody else could read them and make their own decision whether or not it was word from Yahuwah. Words from Yahuwah, if it was counterfeit or myths or fables or made up stuff. So they're going to decide for us, right? Sound familiar? Okay, so anyway, that was the first time there that we found out the word was written down, and then we go, and so there wasn't, there was only scrolls and parchments and things like this, different manuscripts, written on animal hide and on wood and rocks and other things, that they were that they would collect. And of course, being heavy and bulky, they would be centralized, easy to find, right? Yeah, remember too that most people, at least back in that time, around the 3rd, 4th century, were illiterate. So they depended on others to read for them. They only heard, they could hear, and then they could record it and remember it. And matter of fact, they did so from babes, and at least the Hebrew did. And by the time that the Hebrew child became an adult at the age 20, over 20, they could recite the entire Torah verbatim. All you'd have to do is give them the beginning word of a sentence or a chapter or a beginning line, and they would take over and they could recite for you from there because they had it memorized verbatim. They could recite it verbatim. Amazing culture. I mean, I've heard people come into a group when I was at a circus, and they had a photographic memory, and it was really kind of cool. You could just throw them a verse or a chapter and a verse at them, and they would recite it because they had a photographic memory. It was kind of cool to see that, and it was kind of amazing. But really, it was not even close to what the children of the Israel could do. I mean, these people did not have photographic memories. They were taught this by the time they could, as a baby, they were hearing these things. By the time they were an adult, they could recite the entire Torah verbatim. Okay, so and this is how they taught too. This is how the Yahusha even taught this way. When he was on the stake, and he said, "My all, why have you forsaken me?" He wasn't being a weak, subordinate, second-class God hanging up there. He was continuing to teach his people that was below him so they could understand what was going on. And so that was a reference to Psalms 22, and everybody knew it. So they went there and they recited it in their brains because they had it memorized. And so they knew what was happening then. And so he continued to teach even on the stake, even as he hung there near death. He was continuing to teach. Amazing, man. So anyway, let's look at Isaiah 14. Well, actually, let's go to Isaiah 24. If you have your BYNB, let's go ahead and go to Isaiah or Yeshayahu 24. This is proof here in Isaiah 24 that Yahuwah knew what they were going to do. He foresaw it. Okay, it's clear, and it's why the world's going to be destroyed. Well, he already had all this planned anyway. Okay, he planned it all out way ahead of time. Okay, and he tells us that. But here in this Isaiah 24, if we look at, I guess we could go to 1 through 6. We get amazing insight of just what they did, okay, that made Yahuwah decide before he even created anything that he was going to destroy everything. So Yahuwah knew and declared the end from the beginning before he created anything. We got to get that. So it says, see, Yahuwah is making the Eretz empty and making it waste, and shall overturn its surface, and shall scatter abroad its inhabitants, and it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, and with the servant, so with his master, as with the female servant, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, and with the creditor, so with the debtor. The Eretz is completely emptied and utterly plundered. For Yahuwah has spoken this word. The Eretz shall mourn and wither. The world shall languish and wither. The haughty people of the Eretz shall languish. For the Eretz has been defiled under its inhabitants, because they have transgressed the Torah, changed the law, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore, a curse shall consume the Eretz, and those who dwell in it be punished. Therefore, the inhabitants of the Eretz shall be burned, and few men shall be left. Wow. So the truth is, folks, Yahuwah has always made it known that he declares the end from the beginning. So what's that mean for us? Well, we're on the clock. You ever watch the NFL draft? Well, it's our turn. We're on the clock. All the other generations have come and gone. Okay. And I would want to say that we're at the end of the game. Not only are we on the clock, we're into the draft. We're at the end. So what does this all mean? Well, let's look at verse 5 quickly. For the Eretz has been defiled under its inhabitants, defiled, disrespected, trampled on, crapped on, puked on, stomped on, made a mess. It's been messed up. Gibson girl, I'm glad to see you here. All right, so because they have transgressed the Torah, means they have broken all Yahuwah's laws, if you will. They broke them all. It says if you broke one, you broke them all. So they have transgressed the Torah. They have committed sin. They have broken all the laws. That's bad enough, isn't it? But they don't stop there. Then he says they changed the law. They changed the law? Yes, they did. Universalism or Catholicism, if you will, they took these 10 commandments and changed them according to the rule or the edicts of the Roman Catholic Church, where they felt they had the power to do so. And so under this universalism, we have to include Christianity, the Protestants. Why? Because the Roman Catholic Church, RCC, is the mother church. And she's the mother of the harlots, the runaway prostitutes. Her daughters were all prostitutes, and they ran away from mommy and went out whoring on their own with the world. And so it's the same family. So they're all included in the same household. Can't separate those two. Matter of fact, the mother church has said that the daughters have all come home, and there's no difference in what they teach or believe now. So they've recounseled. Man, I was just reading that the other day. So anyways, they took away, changed the law. They took away the second commandment. Do not bow down to images, right? They totally erased that one. That's maybe why people don't understand that they're not allowed to bow down to all them statues and kiss the feet of them statues and so forth and so on, right? Because they don't see the commandment. They've taken that away. You shall not make an idol or bow down, make an image or an idol or bow down to it. It's gone for them. They also changed Yom Shabbat and renamed it Lord's Day, or the Sun's Day of worship, to worship the sun. The day put aside to worship the sun, day number 1. And so then, in order to hide the fact that they extracted the second commandment. They took the 10th commandment and divided it and made 2 commands out of it, which are you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, and you shall not covet your neighbor's goods. And therefore, now there's 10 again instead of 9. All right, so this is what this is talking about. They changed the law, the 10 love commands, the 10 commandments, the 10 to borrow, whatever you know to call them. They changed them. And Yahuwah is upset. And rightfully so. But they didn't stop there. They didn't stop there. Then he says they've broken the everlasting covenant. They've broken the everlasting covenant. The sign of the covenant, the everlasting sign of the everlasting covenant, was deleted and moved to the sun's day of worship. And now they work on Yahuwah's Shabbat. So they've broken the everlasting covenant and they picked on the sign of the everlasting covenant. The sign of the everlasting covenant is what determines who you worship. That's how you're marked as Yahuwah's people, by keeping the sign of the everlasting covenant. It's between Yahuwah and Yahuwah's people forever. So now they got Yahuwah's children, we're all his children, resting on the sun's day of worship, worshiping the sun, paying obedience to the sun. So there you go. For these 3 reasons is why Yahuwah is going to burn up the earth. That's why everything's going to get destroyed. So he declared the end from the beginning. All right. So that's nasty stuff, right? But it's because everything we just talked about. So if we go to Isaiah 13, it says, let's go to 13:5. They are coming from a distant land, from the end of the Shemayim, even Yahuwah and his weapons of displeasure to destroy all the Eretz. How? For the Yom of Yahuwah is near. It comes as destruction from the Almighty. Therefore, all hands go limp, every man's heart melts. And they shall be afraid. Pains and sorrows take hold of them. They are in pain as an asha in labor. They are amazed at one another, their faces aflame. See, Yom Yahuwah is coming, fierce, with wrath and heat of displeasure, to lay the Eretz waste and destroy its sinners from it. For the stars of the Shemayim and their myrads do not give off their light. The sun shall be dark at its rising, and the moon will not send out its light. And I shall punish the world for its evil, and the wrong for their crookedness, and shall put an end to the arrogance of the proud, and lay low the pride of the ruthless. And now listen to this. I shall make mortal man scarcer than fine gold, and mankind scarcer than the gold of Ophir. So I shall make the Shemayim tremble, and the Eretz shall shake from her place in the wrath of Yahuwah. Zaboeth, and in the yam of the heat of his displeasure. There you go. Wow. So this part where it says the Shemayim tremble and the rich shall shake from her place in the wrath of Yahuwah. This sounds like a worldwide earthquake to me. You imagine the entire world shaking, a huge global earthquake, right? And you look up the sky, that sky gonna look like it's shaking right along with you. Wow, man. Woohoo. Why? Because they transgressed the Torah. That's why. They transgressed the Torah. They changed the law and broken the everlasting covenant. Serves them right. Why do they think they have the authority to usurp Yahuwah's position and power? It's almost totally ridiculous, especially when they start calling themselves Father. They want, they declare that they're the mediator between man and Yahuwah, the one mediator. They claim they claim they're God. They take that title and they even claim that they're the J-Man. So it's pretty sad that they do these things because the whole world's going to pay the price, which brings up an interesting tangent. I was just reading about this week, and that was Sodom and Gomorrah when Yahuwah came with two others to Abraham and ate with him and talked with him and then sent the other two away. Yahuwah stayed behind, and he spoke with Abraham, and he told him his plans, what he came to do, and that was to destroy the city and the cities of the plains. And Abraham was put back by it, and he said, "What?" He said, "Well, the creator of all things, the great life giver of all things, creator of everything, not have right ruling?" And he said, "What if there's 50 righteous there? Will you still destroy it?" And of course, we all familiar with the story. He said, "No, I won't destroy it for 50 righteous." So he was willing not to just save the righteous, but the wrong along with the righteous, and spare the entire city along with the wrong because of the sake of the 50. That's amazing. And we all know the story. Abraham continued to negotiate with Yahuwah, and he got him down to 10. He said, "Let me just speak one last time. Don't kill me. Just please let me say this one last thing. Don't hurt me." He said, "If there's 10 righteous, will you destroy it?" And Yahuwah said, "I won't. For the sake of 10 righteous." It's amazing. It's totally amazing. And so since this is where I'm getting to here is, since this is a type or a foreshadow of the sea of fire, or the when the earth is going to burn that we just read about, he's going to destroy the world by fire, and the elements will melt, right? And the Shemayim as well. Very few will be left. There will be a few left that won't get destroyed. And for their sake, he restores the entire planet and rests for 1,000 years and lets them procreate and repopulate and he restores the planet for their sake. Amazing, really, if you think about all that. Okay, so by the way, since we're on that topic, most uninformed teachers will tell you that Lot and his 3 daughters and wife, those 5 righteous, was the only ones that found in there. Actually, there was only 4 righteous. Um, they fled from Sodom and Gomorrah to the mountains, right, and were delivered, right? Well, no, they did not. Scripture says they went over to the city next door in the plains. They left Sodom, Gomorrah, and went over into another city on the plains. And then they came and informed them, we're destroying all these cities. They're all wicked. And so then they fled that city and they went to the mountains. And that's when they went to the mountains, because they heard they were going to destroy them all. And so on the way, his wife looks back and turns into a pillar of salt, right? Okay, so why? What was so horrible about her turning back and looking at the destruction of those perverted cities, those unrighteous cities? Well, it was because that's where her heart was. See, where the treasure of your heart is, there you'll be also. So she never left the world, man. She loved the world. She loved what she was leaving. Okay, and she didn't want to leave it, and she was mourning for it, and she turned back to see what she really loved. That was her true love. And so he said, you want to be part of the world? Bam, he made her part of the world, turned her into salt, into a rock. And the other ones continued on, Lot and his 3 daughters, and they went up and hid out into the mountains. So those were the 4 righteous that were delivered. And then the 3 daughters thought and talked among themselves and said, hey, we're the only ones still alive. Who has done destroyed the entire world by fire, which they're going to. But notice there was 4. But anyway, they thought that they were it, the only survivors. And so they made a plot, said, well, let's repopulate the world. And so the only thing we could do is get their dad drunk and then have sex with him, and they all became pregnant, right? And they had children. We all know the story. But the truth of it is, they weren't the only ones left. There's a lot of people that was still around. So there we go, seeing that people like to do what they think's right. They like to come up with their own plans, their own, and solve the problems on their own, rather than waiting on Yahuwah and having patience to see what Yahuwah wanted them to do from there. All right. So let's get back to it and get off that tangent there. Let's get a look here at let's get a look at Isaiah 26 now. So Isaiah 26, starting in verse 13. O Yahuwah our Elohim, other masters beside you have had rule over us. Only in you do we make mention of your name. The dead do not live, the departed spirit do not rise. Therefore you have visited and destroyed them, and made all their remembrance to perish. No more remembrance of them? Wow. You shall increase the nation, Yahuwah. You shall increase the nation. You are esteemed. You shall expand all the borders of the land. Yahuwah, in distress they shall visit you. They shall pour out a prayer when your disciplining is upon them. And an Asha with child and about to give birth withers and cries out in her pain. So shall we be before your face, Yahuwah. We have conceived, we withered in pain, we have given birth to wind. We have not accomplished deliverance in the Eretz, nor have the inhabitants of the world fallen. Let your dead live, together with my dead body. Let them arise. Awake and sing, you who dwell in dust. For your dew is the dew of light, and let the Eretz give birth to the departed spirits. Go, my people, enter your rooms and shut your doors behind you. Hide yourself, as it were, for a little while, until the displeasure is past. For look, Yahuwah is coming out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the Eretz for their crookedness. And the Eretz shall disclose her blood and no longer cover her slain. All righty, so we see Yahuwah has plans. Let's go to let's go to 46. Isaiah 46, 8 through 13. Remember this and show yourselves men. Turn it back, your transgressors. You transgressors. Turn it back, you transgressors. So, repent. Remember the former events of old, for I am all, and there is no one else. Elohim, and there is no one like me, declaring the end from the beginning. So there it is. He declared the end from the beginning. He planned the creation, and then he planned the ending, the destruction of his creation. And it's in a 6,000-year period. You can say 7,000 because that's when everything will be made new after the millennium reign, after the great white throne judgment. Yeah, so that way it will all be destroyed. Nothing will remain that we know of now. And from the old, that which has not yet been done, that means there's still got some time here, saying, my counsel does stand, and all my delight I do. So his plans, his counsel stand, and he is doing what he wants to do. He's Yahuwah, and nobody can stop him. He planned it all out from the end to the beginning. Calling a bird of prey from the east, the man who executes my counsel from a distant land. Indeed, I have spoken it. I also bring it to pass. I have planned it. I also do it. So there you go. Yahuwah has done it all. He's got it all planned down, written out, exactly how it's going to play out. So perhaps we don't have freedom of will as the circus teaches, but we do have freedom of choice. We can choose to be obedient or disobedient, just like Adam and Kua could. But his will be done. He planned it all out. He's doing it. He's declared it. Ain't no stopping what Yahuwah wants his will, what he wants it to do. He had it all laid out before he created anything. He's very powerful. So powerful. All right, let's look at Isaiah 59, 12 through 15. It says, for our transgressions have increased before you, and our sins witnessed against us. For our transgressions are with us, and as for our crookedness, we know them. Transgressing and being untrue to Yahuwah and turning away from our Elohim. Speaking oppression and apostasy, conceiving and pondering words of falsehood from the heart. And right ruling is driven back, and righteousness stands far off. For truth is falling in the street, and right is unable to enter. And the truth is lacking, and whoever turns away from evil makes himself a prey. Wow. So it's gotten so bad that everybody is doing evil and unrighteousness to such a degree that if you're an obedient person, you stand out and you become a prey. It's like they can see you a mile away. It's like a a sore thumb, you bruise your thumbnail there. People notice it right away. Oh, what'd you do to your thumb? Stands out, right? So it's craziness. That's how bad it is. All right. So, let's look at, before we get out of Isaiah here, let's get a look at Isaiah 66. So there's no wonder here then, Yahuwah just pounds this into our heads, man, of why he's going to do what he's going to do. He's given us a chance to repent and turn back, and look at all these warnings, of why he's going to do it. We truly have no excuse. So let's look at Isaiah 66. Look at 3 real quick. Whoever slaughters the bull slays a man. Whoever slaughters the lamb breaks a dog's neck. Whoever brings a grain offering, pig's blood. Whoever burns incense blesses an idol. That verse there always blows my mind, man. I don't know. That's an amazing verse. So let's jump down here then to 8. Who has heard the like of this? Who has seen the like of these? Is a land brought forth in one yom? Is a nation born at once? For as soon as Zion labored, she gave birth to her children. Okay, this is a reflection of the fig tree prophecy, and where Yisrael was reborn in 1948. The last generation was born in 1948. Okay, so now let's get back on track and look over here at Isaiah 66:14. It says, and you shall see, and your heart shall rejoice, and your bones flourish as tender grass. And the hand of Yahuwah shall be known to his servants, and his displeasure to his enemies. For look, Yahuwah comes with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his displeasure with burning, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword Yahuwah shall judge all flesh, and the slain of Yahuwah shall be many. Okay, his sword would be his words, his word of truth. Okay. Those who set themselves apart and cleanse themselves in the gardens, following after one in the mist, who eat the flesh of pigs and the abomination and the mouse, are snatched away together, declares Yahuwah. So that's not a good thing to be in that group. And I, because of their works and their imaginations, am coming together all nations and tongues, and they shall come and see my esteem. And I shall set a sign among them, and shall send some of those who escape to the nations, Tarshish and Pool and Lud, who draw the bow, and Tubal and Ewan, the coastlands afar off, who have not heard my report nor seen my esteem. And they shall declare my esteem among the Gentiles. And they shall bring all your brothers as an offering to Yahuwah out of all the Gentiles, speaking of the scattered tribes, on horses and in chariots and in litters, on mules and on camels, to my set-apart mountain, Jerusalem, declares Yahuwah. As the children of Israel bring an offering in a clean vessel into a house of Yahuwah, to the house of Yahuwah, and from them too I shall take for priests, for Levites, declares Yahuwah. For as the new Shemaim and the new Arets that I make stand before me, declares Yahuwah. So your seed and your name shall stand. And it shall be that from new moon to new moon, and from Shabbat to Shabbat, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares Yahuwah. And they shall go forth and look upon the corpses of the men who have transgressed against me, for their worm shall not die, and their fire not be quenched, and they shall be repulsive to all flesh. Woo! There's some serious stuff getting ready to go down. Why are we rehashing this? Because it's coming pretty soon. It's coming sooner than most people ever even realize. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I want to read this just because. I think this here is very it's very important because of what's going to be happening in the tribulation years. And that is, there's going to be a lot of false prophets claiming to be Yahusha. Okay, but more than likely, they'll be using the J-Man, the program name, to witness. And perhaps even the anti-Mashiach himself shall come in the program name of the J-Man. So this is kind of imperative of the times that we're now facing. I mean, I think we can see them from afar. That's how close they're coming. You know, you ever look way out, like 100 miles or so, and see a mountain range? And then you get closer and closer and closer and closer to it, and you can see it more clearly. Woe to the shepherds destroying and scattering the sheep of my pasture, declares Yahuwah. Wow. So there's one body, one assembly, but they're being scattered by somebody, by these shepherds. Is this all these denominations that we're just studying about? And their leaders and their people? Therefore, thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael against the shepherds who feed my people. You have scattered my flock, driven them away, and have not tended them. See, they're supposed to be feeding the people. What? The living waters, the manna from heaven, right? The words of Yahuwah, the truth. See, I am punishing you for the evil of your deeds, declares Yahuwah. Therefore, I shall gather the remnant of my flock out of all the lands where I have driven them, and shall bring them back to their fold, and they shall bear and increase. And it sounds like the Great Awakening, sort of, doesn't it? And I shall raise up shepherds over them, and they shall feed them the truth. And they shall fear no more, nor be discouraged, nor shall they be lacking, declares Yahuwah. See, the Yamim are coming, declares Yahuwah, when I shall raise for Dawood a branch of righteousness, and a sovereign shall reign and act wisely, and shall do right ruling and righteousness in the Eretz. And his Yamim, Yehuda, shall be delivered, and Yisrael dwell safely. And this is his name, whereby he shall be called Yahuwah Tzedekenu, or Yahuwah our righteousness. Therefore, seeing the Yamim are coming, declares Yahuwah, when they shall say no more, as Yahuwah lives, who brought up the children of Yisrael out of the land of Mitzrayim. But as Yahuwah lives, who brought up and led the seed of the house of Yisrael out of the land of the north, and from all the lands where I had driven them, and they shall dwell on their own soil. My heart within me is broken because of the prophets. All my bones shake. I am like a drunkard man, and like a man overcome by wine, because of Yahuwah, and because of his set apart words. For the land is filled with adulterers, for the land mourns because of a curse. The pastures of the wilderness are dried up. In their course is evil, and their might is not right. For both prophet and priest have become defiled. Ooh. Even in my house I have found their evil, declares Yahuwah. Therefore their way is to them like slippery ways in the dark. That blows my mind that these prophets and priests were actually in his house doing wickedness, worshiping other GODs, false GODs, and Satan. Crazy, man. In his house. Did they believe in him? They surely don't seem like they feared him, so therefore they couldn't have believed in him if they had no fear of him. It's amazing, isn't it? Kind of put it back right into the perspective of what's going on today in them circuses. Therefore their way is to them like slippery ways in the dark. They are driven on, and they shall fall in them. For I bring evil on them, the year of their punishment, declares Yahuwah. And I have seen folly in the prophets of Samaria. They prophesied by Baal and led my people Yisrael astray. And among the prophets of Jerusalem, I have seen a horrible matter, breaking wedlock and walking in falsehood. And they strengthen the hands of evil ones, so that no one turns back from his evil. All of them are like Sodom to me, and her inhabitants like Gomorrah. Therefore, to the end of the end of the days, toward the end of days of the tribulation years, if you will, are going to be like Sodom and Gomorrah. And Jerusalem itself is going to be called Egypt and Gomorrah, or Sodom and Egypt. And it also goes to say that it'll be like the days of Noah. You know, people are just going to be living their life just like nothing's happening. They're going to think it's normal. Everything around them that's going on is normal. I mean, it blows me away, because I can look back when I was in my 20s, or even when I was an adolescent, and how the world was, how the United States was, and compare it to now, it's like a different country. People don't understand how much it's changed because they weren't there. They just know what's going. They think this is everything that's going on is normal, and they're going to continue to think that all the way into the day of Yahuwah, I believe. Well, maybe after them nukes start dropping, it might wake a few of them up. Therefore, thus said Yahuwah of Zabuath concerning the prophets. Now, here we go. See, I am making them eat wormwood, poison water, and shall make them drink poisoned waters, false teaching, and they shall drink poison waters. If Yahuwah is the living waters, then Satan must be the poison waters. For defilement has gone out into all the land from the prophets of Jerusalem. Thus said Yahuwah our Zaboeth, do not listen to the words of the prophets who prophesy to you. They lead you astray. They speak a vision of their own heart, not from the mouth of Yahuwah. Ooh. They keep on saying to those who despise me, Yahuwah has said, you shall have peace. And to all who walk according to the stubbornness of their own heart, they say, no evil comes upon you. For who has stood in the counsel of Yahuwah and has seen and heard his word? Who has listened to his word and obeyed it? See, a storm of Yahuwah shall go forth in a rage, a whirling storm. It whirls on the head of the wrong. The displeasure of Yahuwah shall not turn back until he has done and established the purposes of his heart. In the latter Yamim, you shall understand it perfectly. I think we're in the latter Yamim because I understand perfectly what he's saying. Watch out for those false teachers. Give me your money, I'll tell you what your heart desire is. I did not send these prophets, yet they ran. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied. But if they had stood in my counsel, then they would have let my people hear my words, and they would have turned them from their evil way and from the evil of their deeds. And so if this prophet was from Yahuwah, then they would be teaching, repent, for the reign of Yahuwah comes near. It would be prophesying out of what is written in Torah, right? Not out of their own made up, senseless stuff, just to get your money, usually, or your attention. Yeah, sometimes they'll do it just to get attention, make people think they're cool or something, or holier than thou. Am I and Elohim close by, says Yahuwah? You better believe he is. He's close as your breath. And not an Elohim afar off. If anyone is hidden in the secret places, would I not see him, declares Yahuwah? Do I not fill the Shemaim and the Rets, declares Yahuwah? I have heard what the prophets have said who prophesy falsehood in my name, saying, I have dreamed a meteor's coming down that's going to wipe us out. Give me your money. Till when shall it be in the heart of the prophets? The prophets of falsehood and prophets of the deceit of their own heart, who try to make my people forget my name by their dreams, which everyone relates to his neighbor, as their fathers forgot my name for Baal. The prophet who has a dream, let him relate the dream, and he who has my word, let him speak my word in truth. Right here it is. I'm speaking his word in truth right now to you. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing Yahushua talk to you now? Are you over there sleeping? And he who has my word, let him speak my word in truth. If you're reading scriptures, you are definitely speaking his word in truth. You are not a false prophet if you're reading scripture. What is the chaff to the wheat, declares Yahuwah? Is not my word like a fire? Yes, it is, declares Yahuwah. And like a hammer that shatters a rock? Yes, it is. Therefore, see, I am against the prophets, declares Yahuwah, who steal my words, every one from his neighbor. See, I am against the prophets, declares Yahuwah, who use their tongues and say, he declares. See, I am against those who prophesy false dreams, declares Yahuwah, and relate them and lead my people astray by their falsehoods and by their reckless boasting. But I myself did not send them, nor have I commanded them. And they do not profit this people at all, declares Yahuwah. And when these people or the prophet or the priest ask you, saying, what is the message of Yahuwah? Then you shall say to them, what message? I shall forsake you, declares Yahuwah. As for the prophet and the priest and the people who say the message of Yahuwah, I shall punish that man and his house. This is what each one says to his neighbor and each one to his brother. What has Yahuwah answered? And what has Yahuwah spoken? But the message of Yahuwah you no longer remember. For every man's message is his own word. For you have changed the words of the living Elohim. Yahuwah Sabaoth are Elohim. This is what you say to the prophet. What has Yahuwah answered you? And what has Yahuwah spoken? But since you say the message of Yahuwah, therefore thus said Yahuwah, because you say this word, the message of Yahuwah, and I have sent to you, saying, do not say the message of Yahuwah. Therefore, see, I shall utterly forget you and cast you away from my presence, along with the city that I gave you and your fathers. And I shall put an everlasting reproach on you and an everlasting shame that is not forgotten. Yeah, so don't go around telling people that Yahuwah said this or Yahuwah told you to go come tell them that when Yahuwah didn't do it. Okay, that's just prideful boast, and you're trying to esteem Yahuwah. You're trying to present yourself as just some great man of the cloth, as the Christians like to say. And you're getting yourself into hot water, is what you're doing. Possibly thrown straight into the flames. So be careful with all that, especially as these tribulation years are approaching us now. Steadily approaching, day by day. You can see it coming closer and closer. Now take a look at Hosea 9:10. Hosea 9:10. I found Yesharel, like great. Oh, that's not it. I meant Hosea 8:1. Sorry about that. Hosea 8:1. I'm getting punchy. I'm getting drunk on Yahuwah. Starting to get punchy. Okay, Hosea 8:1. Put the ram's horn to your mouth like an eagle against the house of Yahuwah, because they have transgressed my covenant, and they have rebelled against my Torah. There you go. Did y'all catch that one? That should be enough to put some fear in you. Okay, let's take a quick look now here at how about Michal 5? Michal 5, 6 through 15. And they shall shepherd the land of Asher with the sword, in the land of Nimrod at its entrance. And he shall deliver us from Asher when he comes into our land and when he treads within our borders. This is, the land of Nimrod obviously would be Babel. And this Asher, I believe, is the son of Shem. Maybe his second son of Shem. So Shem, I think this son of Shem here, this Asher, I think it's his second son, is credited with Assyrian, I think, empire, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. But then after him comes Nimrod, in that the creation of the Tower of Babel and the confusion of the languages and all that, and the first man to self-claim himself to be a God, human God. And he shall deliver us from Asherah when he comes into our land and when he treads within our borders. And the remnant of Yaqub shall be in the midst of many peoples, as dew from Yahuwah, as showers on the grass, which do not wait for man, nor delay for the sons of men. And the remnant of Yaqub shall be among the nations, in the midst of many peoples, like a lion among the beasts of a forest, like a young lion among flocks of sheep, who, if he passes through, shall both tread down and shall tear, and there is no one to deliver. Let your hand be lifted up against your adversaries, and all your enemies be cut off. And it shall be in that yom, says Yahuwah, that I shall cut off your horses out of the midst, and I shall destroy your chariots. And I shall cut off the cities of your land, and I shall put down all your strongholds, and I shall cut off witchcrafts out of your hand, and let you have no magicians. And I shall cut off your carved images and your pillars from your midst, so that you no longer bow down to the work of your hands. And I shall pluck your ashram out of your midst. That's your Christmas trees, folks. And I shall destroy your cities. And I shall take vengeance and wrath and rage on the nations who did not obey. Who did not obey. Obey what? Oh, his Torah, his 10 love commands, specifically. So we see now, why he's going to destroy burn the earth and everything, man. I mean, it's fairly clear our behavior is our downfall. Warning after warning after warning after warning. No wonder they don't want you to read the Old Testament. You might discover the truth. Not only might you discover the truth, you may find out how to love Yahuwah and love others if you read the Old Testament. No wonder they don't want you to. They worship death. They're haters. Look at Habakkuk. Habakkuk. I like that name, don't you? How'd you like to be named? Habakkuk. The harbinger, which the prophet Habakkuk saw. Okay, so here's the harbinger he saw. Yahuwah, till when shall I cry and you not hear? I cry to you, violence, violence against the Torah. Violence, and you do not save. And you do not save. Why do you show me wickedness and cause me to see perversity? Kind of probably what Lot was thinking, huh? For ruin and violence are before me. And there is strife and contention arises. Therefore, the Torah ceases. The Torah ceases. Wow. And right ruling never goes forth. Wow. That's sad. For the wrong him in the righteous. Get you hemmed in and put you in a corner. Got you trapped. For they wrong him in the righteous, so that right ruling comes out twisted. Twisted, man. That's why they do all these plea bargains and stuff in this country, man. Got people scared to death and don't got any money to fight them. So the right rulings come out twisted. Even if they have evidence to prove people innocent, they still prosecute them. Look among the nations and see and be amazed. Be amazed. For a work is being wrought in your Yamam which you would not believe if it were told. Wow. So get a glimpse into the future, basically. Look among the nations and see and be amazed. Be amazed. For a work is being wrought in your day which you would not believe if you were told. Yeah, that's what they're doing to the Torah, the words of truth, the words of Yahuwah, man. They have no fear of him. Look what they've done to his words. We just studied that earlier. You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to take a small break here, let everybody go get himself something to drink, get a snack or something. And then we'll be back. Just say 5 minutes, 5-minute break. What y'all think of that? Or I'll even play you some music while I'm gone. Ready? Here we go. 5-minute intercession. Go get you a snack and drink. Meet me back here in 5 minutes.
Yahusha, living water, Baruch haba, Hashem Yahuwah. Yahusha, living water, Baruch haba, Hashem Yahuwah. I'll sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I'll sing out with praise to you. My heart desires to honor you, my Yahweh. I sing out with praise to you, Yahusha. Living Torah, Baruch haba, Hashem Yahuwah. Yahusha, living Torah, Baruch haba, Hashem Yahuwah. I sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I sing out with praise to you. My heart desires to honor you, my Yahweh. I sing out with praise to you, Yahusha. Living Torah, Baruch haba, Hashem Yahuwah. Baruch haba, Hashem Yahuwah. Baruch haba, Hashem Yahuwah. Baruch haba, Hashem Yahuwah.
Alrighty, welcome back from the break. Hope everybody got something to snack on, something to drink, stretch, got some fresh air, got to clear the minds. Now we're back for more truth. Yahuwah's word. All right. So let's get a look now at Zechariah. Zechariah 14, 1 through 15. We're just hammering the evidence here. Toward when we get done with the scriptures, we'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing, with all this interference and devices and stratagem of the devil, trying to lead everybody astray and get them off target, get them off the narrow path, So, and what we can do about it. And we'll talk about that at the end. So let's get back into it now. Zechariah 14, say, it's 1 through 15, let's just say. See, a day shall come for Yahuwah, and your spoil shall be divided in your midst. And I shall gather all the nations to battle against Jerusalem. And the city shall be taken, the houses plundered, and the women ravished. Half of the city shall go into exile, but the remnant of the people shall not be cut off from the city. And Yahuwah shall go forth, and he shall fight against those nations, and he fights in the yom of battle. So Yahuwah is going to actually fight in the last battle mankind ever is involved in, which we all know is Armageddon. And in that yom, his feet shall stand upon the Mount of Olives, his second coming, the day of Yahuwah, which faces Jerusalem on the east. So he'll be down on the Mount of Olives, and he'll be looking east, faces Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall be split in two, from east to west, a very great valley, and half of the mountain shall move toward the north, and half of it toward the south. There'll be a big earthquake going to split the Mount of Olives in two. So every time we think about the day of Yahuwah or the second coming of Yahusha, which is basically the same thing, there's always an earthquake involved. There's this huge earthquake. It's going to split the Mount of Olives. It sounds like it's going to be a global shaking to me. And you shall flee to the valley of my mountain, for the valley of the mountains reach to Atzal. And you shall flee as you fled from the earthquake. See, so it confirms it's an earthquake. In the Yamam of Uzziah, sovereign of Yehuda, and Yahuwah my Elohim shall come, all the set apart ones with you. And Yahuwah my Elohim shall come, all the set apart ones with you. Okay, so when he's coming back with a myriad of messengers on white horses, his army of the Shemayim. Okay. But then he's going to bring up the first resurrection group. Those who are asleep and those who remain alive at the second coming will be transformed into immortality, get their immortal bodies, and be caught up with him in the clouds as he descends upon the Mount of Olives. So when he comes down, his feet stands on the Mount of Olives. There's a great earthquake and splits it in two. Then all the set apart ones with you. We're going to be there, but we're going to have immortal bodies. Okay? Hi, Cato. Glad you're here, bro. Hi, Maria. Glad you're here. Hi, Lou. Hi, Phyllis. Glad y'all are here. So interesting. And the set apart ones with you. Speaking of Yahusha. And in that yom it shall be, there is no light, it is dark. And it shall be one yom which is known to Yahuwah, neither yom nor night, day or night, but at evening the time there shall be light. And in that yom it shall be that the living waters flow from Jerusalem. Does that mean that Yahusha will be the light in the evening? Because it don't make sense as being no day or light, but in the evening there shall be light. Does that mean it's over, or does that mean Yahusha supplies the light now? Probably Yahusha supplying the light. Okay, and so, and in that yom it shall be that living waters flow from Jerusalem, half of them toward the eastern sea and half of them toward the western sea, in summer as well in winter. Sounds like there's going to be a big fountain of water spring up from this huge splitting of the Mount of Olives, and it's going to flow all the way down to the Dead Sea, maybe beyond, and the Dead Sea will come alive and have fish and everything in it. That's what it kind of sounds like what it's saying. All right. And Yahuwah shall be sovereign over all the Eretz. In that yom there shall be one Yahuwah, and his name one. All the land shall be changed into a desert plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem. And she shall be raised up and inhabited in her place from Benjamin's gate to the place of the first gate and the corner gate, and from the tower of Carmel to the wine presses of the sovereign. And they shall dwell in her. And there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this is the plague which with Yahuwah plagues all the people who fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall decay while they stand on their feet, and their eyes decay in their sockets, and their tongues decay in their mouths. So this is precise definition of someone who's experienced a nuclear holocaust. They've been involved in a nuclear blast, and you have radiation poisoning. This is what happens to you, precisely. So I think this is proof that Armageddon, toward the end of Armageddon, there will be a Samson option executed by the Israelites that are there, and there will be a nuclear detonation. Pretty clear to me. Their flesh shall decay while they stand on their feet, and their eyes decay in their sockets, and their tongues decay in their mouths. That sounds like nuclear poisoning. And it shall be in that yom that a great confusion from Yahuwah is among them, and every one of them shall seize the hand of his neighbor, and his hand rise up against his neighbor's hand. And Yahuwah shall fight at Jerusalem as well. And the wealth of all the nations round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and garments in great quantities. So also is the plague on the horse and the mule, on the camel and the donkey, and on the cattle that are in those camps as this plague. So yeah, I mean, a nuclear blast would not have any mercy on the animals. They would get poisoned as well. It makes sense, doesn't it? So the men, the people, and the animals are going to be walking around looking like zombies, kind of like. Okay, so let's look here now at Peter 3. Peter 3, 1 through 12. This is now, beloved ones, the second letter I write to you, in which I stir up your sincere mind, to remember the words previously spoken by the set-apart prophets, and of the command of the Master and Deliverer spoken by your emissaries. Knowing this first, that mockers shall come in the last days, with mocking, walking according to their own lust, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all continues as from the beginning of creation. So they're going to be mocking you. You're going to stand out like a sore thumb because the world is evil and you're being obedient, and they're going to notice it. You're resting on the Shabbat, and they're going to mock you and tease you. Oh, look at this idiot. He still thinks Yahuwah's coming, man. What an idiot. And they're going to be making fun of you, okay? Is that happening now? Yeah, it is to some degree. For they choose to have this hidden from them. Now, this is really important. So the ones that are doing the mocking and the teasing and making fun of you, okay, for they choose to have this hidden from them, okay, not you, but them, the ones doing the mocking, that the Shemayim were of old, and the Eretz standing out of water and in the water, by the word of Elohim, through which the world at that time was destroyed, being flooded with water. And the present Shemayim and the Eretz are treasured up by the same word. He declares the end from the beginning, being kept for fire, to a day of judgment and destruction of wicked men. So there you go. So the flood, the sea of water, okay, was type, if you will, of the sea of fire that's coming at the end. It's going to destroy by fire. The water was the type, if you will, and then the destroyed by fire is going to be the finale, or the prelude and the finale, if you will. All set up, though, by the same word, treasured up by the same word, which is Yahuwah planned it, and Yahuwah's going to do it, and he declares the end from the beginning. As we read, we just read that in Isaiah 46:10, remember? But beloved ones, or 11, I mean. But beloved ones, let not this one thing be hidden from you, that with Yahuwah 1 day is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is 1 day. So since he created everything in 7 days, 6 days, and rested on the seventh day, then that's 7 millenniums, or 7 1,000-year periods, if you will. Yahuwah is not slow in regard to the promise, as some count slowness, but is patient toward us, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. He's given us enough time. Every generation had enough time to repent, okay, and start obeying Yahuwah, get to know Yahuwah, pursue to know Yahuwah, this type of things. Are there exceptions? Yes. But the Yom of Yahuwah shall come as a thief in the night, in which the Shemayim shall pass away with a great noise. Remember that, noises, earthquakes, and the elements shall melt with intense heat. Whoa, elements will melt with intense heat, and the Eretz and the works that are in it shall be burned up. Seeing all these are to be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be in set apart behavior and reference? Looking for and hastening the coming of the day of Elohim, through which the Shemayim shall be destroyed, being set on fire, and the elements melt with intense heat. There, so now we just learned a whole lot about it. Boom. The Shemayim, the Eretz, and the elements will all be burned up and melt and be destroyed. He will destroy his creation, bar none. Few men will be left, which will probably be the ones that he shields from that nuclear blast at the end of Armageddon. It was my take on it. Maybe, maybe not. Those could be the ones that already have immortal bodies, and they're shielded because they're immortal. And then somewhere scattered throughout the world, there'll be survivors of the day of Yahuwah. And there's going to be very few of them if that's the case. It says very few men will be left. So very, very extremely powerful words from Brother Kifa. And we would do well to heed. Okay, so now let's get a look here. Now let's get a look at Hebrews 12. Hebrews 12, 25 to 29. Take heed not to refuse the one speaking. Take heed not to refuse the one speaking. For if those did not escape who refused the warning on Eretz, much less we who turn away from him from heaven, whose voice shook the Eretz then, but now he has promised, saying, Yet once more I shake not only the Eretz, but also the heaven. And this, yet once more, makes clear the removal of what is shaken as having been made, so that the unshaken things might remain. Therefore, receiving an unshakable reign, let us hold the favor through which we serve Yahuwah, pleasingly with reverence and awe. For indeed, our Yahuwah is a consuming fire. Ooh, I just put shields on me, but yeah. All right. Now let's get a look here at something here I want to point out. It's in Revelations. Now check this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I want to point. Remember what we've been talking about here: earthquakes, noises, these type of things. So all this, then fire and all this, everything that we've been reading is present on the day of Yahuwah, right? So keep that in mind. So when we hear noises, thunders, and lightnings, and earthquakes, darkness, this kind of stuff, then we know that it has to do with the day of Yahuwah, or the second coming of Yahusha. It has something to do with it. Okay, so with that in mind, get a look at Revelation 6. So Revelations here, we have events told to us, revealed to us by Yahusha through Yahuchanan, the Revelator, the one that's writing down this unveiling of the second coming of Yahusha is what the Revelations is. It's unveiling of the second coming of Yahusha. And all these events that lead up to. Okay, so when we reach about the middle of Revelations, we learn about signs and wonders and stuff, okay? It's going to be happening during these end times. And so in about the middle, we get taught about 7 seals, 7 trumpets, and 7 bowls or vials. Okay. Christianity likes to teach that these things are done in chronological order. Okay. In other words, they start off here and then Yahuwah just steadily increases the pressure and the misery and everything on the people of the earth until finally at the end, he destroys everything. But his wrath and his pressure slowly increases as we get closer and closer to the tribulation years. And that's not what this teaches. That's an error. Okay, so the seals, the trumpets, and the bowls or vials are not in chronological order. They speak of the same event, okay, which is the second coming of Yahusha. It's just merely a long story, a medium story, and a short story. Now, it seems like the trumpets are the long story, but they are not. They are the middle story. The seals are the long story, and I'll explain that, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. But we'll start with the 7 seals. Okay, they start at chapter 6, verse 2. Okay, and it begins with the 4 horses of the apocalypse. So the first 4 seals of Revelations is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Okay, they're the first 4 seals. So the very first one then is the white horse. So this white horse, I'm just quickly here now, I'm not going to explain a lot of this. Some of you have heard this before. I have other videos you can go back and research if you want to learn more. But the white horse is the conqueror is universalism or Catholicism, okay? And we all know that began roughly early in the 4th century. So this long story here goes back to the beginning of Christianity or Catholicism. Universalism is what that means, with Constantine and all that, okay? And then it just keeps coming at you into the conclusion of the story, which ends on the day of Yahuwah, or the second coming of Yahushua. It's the same thing. So it starts with the birth of universalism or Catholicism, and it ends on the day of Yahuwah in chapter 8, verse 5. So chapter 8, verse 5 says, "And the messenger took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar and threw it to the arets. And there were noises and thunders and lightnings and an earthquake. There, boom, done." That's the conclusion of the story that began at the 321, we'll say, and ends at the end of the Battle of Armageddon at the day of Yahuwah. It ends at the day of Yahuwah. This conclusion describes the day of Yahuwah, does it not? Noises, thunders, lightnings, and an earthquake. What's the sign of the return of Yahusha? It's a lightning strike that goes completely across the entire universe. And the noises, we read that. The earthquake, we read that. There's going to be thunders too. There's going to be darkness. But what I'm saying is, when you read this right here, you know it's talking about the day of Yahuwah. This day of Yahuwah is always described with noises and thunders and lightnings and an earthquake and darkness. See that? So that tells us that that's long story that started in the early 4th century ends on the day of Yahuwah after the tribulation years, immediately after the tribulation years. And that's the day. That right there is describing the day of Yahuwah. Chapter 8, verse 5. Then we go into the medium length. It's the same exact story, but it's medium. It seems longer because there's more intermediate events and knowledge put into it that was not given in the seals. But see, the time frame is shortened. It's just giving you more events and things that are going to happen within that shorter time frame. Okay, so those are the 7 trumpets. They're the medium story of the same thing. Okay, the end times ending in the day of Yahuwah. So the 7 trumpets start in chapter 8, verse 6. So chapter 8, verse 6 says, "And the 7 messengers who held the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. And the first messenger sounded, and there came to be hail and fire mixed with blood, and they were thrown to the arets." Okay. So there you go. And a third of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. Okay, so what this is describing in the beginning of this story here of the trumpets is World War I, which started around 1914. So you see, it's a shorter story. Whereas the seal started in the 4th century, this is starting here in the 20th century. See, that's why it's a shorter story, but it has more detail. Within the time frame of 1914 and the day of Yahuwah, we're given more detail, much more detail, especially about the tribulation years. But it's a shorter story because it starts in 1914 and ends in the day of Yahuwah. So let's see if it does it. Is it the same story? Then it has to end the same way. Even though it starts at a different timeline, it must end at the same spot to be the same story. It has to have the same ending, right? Or else it's not the same story. So let's find out. So if we go from 8, it starts in 8:6, and we go over to 11, chapter 11:19. We'll go to 11:19. It says, "And the Mishkan of Yahuwah was opened in the heaven, and the ark of his covenant was seen in his Mishkan. And there came to be lightnings and voices and thunders and an earthquake and great hail." So there you go. That describes the day of Yahuwah. It's the same ending, the same conclusion, period. So there we go. The trumpets, the medium story begins in 1914 with World War I, and it ends with the day of Yahuwah. Ends on the day of Yahuwah. There can be lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. There it is. So it's the same story. It's just being told differently. It has a different time, a starting point with a lot more information, but it still ends on the day of Yahuwah. See, it's not in chronological order. It's the same story. With a beginning, different beginning, and more information, but it ends on the day of Yahuwah, same as the seals did. Okay, now let's look at the bowls. How about them? Well, that's the short story. So the 7 bowls or vials, if you will, is found in chapter 16, period. It begins in chapter 16, it ends in chapter 16. Okay, so the 7 bowls or vials starts 16:2. It says, "And the first went and poured out his bowl upon the Eretz, and an evil and wicked sore came upon the men, those having the mark of the beast, and those worshiping his image." So here we see that the mark of the beast has already been given to his followers. Okay. And we also, up in verse 1, find out that these bowls or these vials are the wrath of Yahuwah on the Eretz. Okay, so what this is doing now is it's starting in the beginning of the Battle of Armageddon. So the first bowl is the beginning of the Battle of Armageddon, which hasn't come yet, okay, but it will. So when the Battle of Armageddon starts, okay, we go down through this. We have, he justifies his wrath. Okay, then there's a nuclear war. And then there is the return of Yahuwah comes, okay? There's contamination, the water's dried up, and things like this. And anyway, it goes on down, and to the end is at 16:18. So we go down and look at 16:18 now. It began at the Battle of Armageddon, okay, in 16:2. It ends at the Battle of Armageddon, and it ends on the day of Yahuwah, immediately after the Battle of Armageddon. Immediately after the tribulation years, okay, is the day of Yahuwah. So Armageddon starts in 16:2, The day of Yahuwah, it ends on the day of Yahuwah in verse 16, 18. And it says, and there came to be noises and thunders and lightnings, and there came to be a great earthquake. Such a mighty and great earthquake as had not came to be since men were on the Arats. So there you go. It's going to be a global. Okay, you can imagine the entire planet just shaking, splitting. Yes, wow, what a mess that's going to be. And what is that? That description? It's the day of Yahuwah, man. And so the bowls starts with Armageddon and ends with the day of Yahuwah, just like the seals and the trumpets did. You see? So they're not in chronological order. They're the same story. Just a long-term form, a medium form, and the short-term form of the same story, the end times. You see it? So there you go. So whenever we see this in Scripture, and it's in a lot of places, really. When you see this conclusion, okay, or this explanation, whatever you want to call it, and it says there came to be noises and thunders and lightnings and great earthquake, darkness, thunderings. You know it's talking about the day of Yahuwah. That's what it's talking about. Okay? All right. So I hope y'all picked up what I was laying down there. I'm going to get out of Revelations now. Like I say, if you want to know more about that, search out. I got 3 or 4 videos on there about that. Now let's go to the last warning for mankind, and that's found in Malachi. If you want to turn your BYNV over to Malachi, it's in 4, Malachi chapter 4. We get the last warning for mankind to straighten up. Don't forget why he's going to destroy the earth. Okay? Because of what the violence to the Torah. They did violence to the Torah, man. He's not liking it one bit. Okay, so here we go. Malachi 4. For look, the yom shall come, burning like a furnace, and all the proud and every wrongdoer shall be stubble, and the yom that shall come shall burn them up. And Yahuwah's abuth, which leaves to them neither root nor branch, but to you who fear my name, the servant of righteousness shall arise with healing in his wings. And you shall go out and leap for joy like calves from the stall. And you shall trample the wrongdoers, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet. On the yom that I do this, said Yahuwah Zabueth. So they're going to be burned up. They're going to be ashes, and we're going to be leaping for joy, stomping all over them ashes, man, because we're going to be alive. Remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant, which I commanded him in Koreb for all Yisrael, laws and right rulings. Okay, so remember the Torah of Moshe. Okay, so what we have to do now is we have to go back to the old ways, the ancient ways, back to the old Hebrew manuscripts. We have to get our hands on the Hebrew text and start obeying Torah. Okay, that's the only way out of this mess. Those other translations are pretty much useless other than teaching or studying instruments, really. So, see, I am sending you Aliyah, the prophet, before the coming of the great and awesome Yom of Yahuwah. And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the Eretz with utter destruction. Okay, so to me then, that I'm sending you Eliyahu, the prophet, before the coming of the great and awesome. I think this is speaking of Yehukanan the immerser, to me. Okay. There is a verse where Yahuwah calls Yehukanan the immerser Elijah. Okay, so I think that's what this is referenced to. Remember, this is prior to the Nazarene writings, and I believe there was 400 years between the Tanakh and the Nazarene writings, if I ain't mistaken. I think there was 400 years. If I'm mistaken on it, somebody correct me. But anyway, wow. So there you go. That's the last warning for mankind. It's found in Malachi 4. So what Yahuwah is telling us to do then is go back to the old manuscripts, the Hebrew text, the Torah of Moshe, before any translations. See what I'm saying? So what can we do then to heed this warning by Yahuwah? We need to get our hands, simply need to get our hands on a Hebrew to American translation, okay, and learn out of it and be obedient to the words of truth. And the best one I know is right up here, and you see it up here in this corner up here. There it is. I see that one right there. That's my suggestion. You can get whatever you want, but I think that's the most clearest, most precise Hebrew translation into the American language on the market, in my opinion. I have no interest in that. I don't get a penny for saying that. I'm just trying to express my experience for you, so to help you. So if you don't have the BYNV, please get one and read out of it and save yourself a lot of headache. I have all the other ones. I have the ISR, the Hallelujah Scriptures. I have the Sefer here. Dr. Pigeon's, all his books. I have a tremendous amount of them, really. I have the interlinear. Where is that thing? What's over here? The Annals of the World. But I'm telling you, the clearest and I think the most precise is the BYNV. Am I saying it's perfect? No, I didn't say that. Is it exactly what the old original manuscripts of 1500 BC through 100 AD said? Probably not exactly. But it's the best we got that I know of. And I've read them all. I don't just have these. I've read these. So, you can take my, advice if you want, but you don't have to. I just urge you to buy the BYNV if you don't have it and study out of it. I think it'll help everybody tremendously. And at least I know it does. It did me for sure. Okay. I think that's about it for this study. And just want you all to know that there's a ton of translations out there and they're all corrupt. It's kind of sickening in a way to even say that. It kind of hurts me to even say it, but it's true. And when I first was reading the prefaces or the preface, if you will, however you want to say it, depends on where you're from, I guess. It was astonishing and it was staggering to understand what they did, the violence they committed against the scriptures of truth when they removed his true name and replaced it with basically the devil's name. That's what they really did. And they say it like it is. They replaced Yahuwah or Elohim's name with the devil's name, God. You see, any of these pagan names or mythology, names of mythology are made up, dreamed up, gods, mighty ones, Greek mythology, Latin gods, and all of that, Egyptian, Norseman. The entire world was pagan, man. They had their made up gods called by a bunch of different names. Well, behind all these fake names, these unreal characters that don't even exist, lies Satan. And so he attaches himself to all these different names so that when people call on those, he's there pronto and answering them and leading them astray, along with his demons, help from his demons, fallen Melachim. And so it's pitiful that they did that, So to get a translation that has at least restored Yahuwah's true name and restored all the Hebrew names of people, name of towns and cities and places and things like that is really a blessing from Yahuwah to be woke up to that point where you realize that. But as I was reading through this prefaces of especially the NIV, and I came to that word stratagem, that the devices were stratagem. And I looked that up in a good dictionary, and I was amazed to find out that these are tools for war. These are things plans that your enemy uses against you because he hates you. He's your enemy, and he's using these devices through these stratagems, these war plans against you. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And so all these translations that have removed his true name, removed the names of the prophets, that have replaced all the Hebrew stuff, all the things that we talked about earlier, is a stratagem of our enemy. And who is our enemy? Who's our adversary? The devil, the serpent of old, hell, the fallen Melachim. And so he's responsible for misleading us and leading the world astray through the devices he has implanted into these translations. So that is big time trouble for us. So what do? We do what Yahuwah said when he gave us that last warning. Okay? Go back to the Torah of Moshe, back to the original manuscripts, and learn out of them and throw those translations away, because they only lead you astray. They're meant to. They're the stratagem of the devil. They're meant to lead you astray. They even put Easter in the King James. It's the only translation on the planet I know of that has actually has the word Easter in it. Listen to this out of one of Lou White's books. I don't know if you all know Lou White. Probably most of you might. But he wrote a book right here. It's called The Lie. The truth will set you free. Remember the lie? The lie that you don't have to obey Yahuwah. The Yahuwah is a liar. You don't have to obey him. He told the woman, you will not die. You'll be like Alehem. He's lying to you. He's a liar. Remember the lie? Okay, so anyway, if you have this, it's on page 10, this book. And it's a reference that it was extracted from the 1945 Encyclopedia Americana. And it gives a definition for the name God. Now, this is a name. It's not a device. This is a pronoun for the Norsemen. Okay, so it says common Teutonic word for personal object of religious worship. See, religious worship. What's religion? Tradition. So truth is reality. Religion is tradition or falsehood, if you will. So every time you say the word falsehood in the scriptures of truth, go ahead and associate it with religion and traditions. Falsehood, same thing. Formerly applicable to superhuman beings of heathen myth, would be sort of like Hercules or Atlas or these type of half human, half God people running around. On conversion of Teutonic races to Christianity, term was applied to supreme being. So there you go. Here's the history of it. So the God was the name of the Teutonic races, God, and they brought it with them, or they lured them with that name of their mighty one, God, into the universalism of the Roman Empire, created by Constantine I. So the term was applied to the supreme being, which is, the supreme being is Yahuwah. So they took away the name of the Hebrew name Yahuwah, replaced it with the Teutonic tribe name God, to lure them into their mad scientist scheme and their stratagems, the ministers of darkness working for the devil. So to help promote the devil schemes. Okay. So there you all go. Let me see. Is there any questions up here? Yeah, I'll throw this invite in case somebody wants to come in. I'm pretty much done with this evening's study, y'all. Thank you for coming and studying with me. I appreciate you. If anybody wants to come on and talk a little bit, you're more than welcome. There you go. Let me see if there's any questions up here. Strategy, description in our food, water, medicine, schools. Take away, read anything with your own eyes and know the source. I mean, much deeper than, but you get it. Okay. Here, I'll read you all that. Hang on. I'll show you so you see what I'm talking about. Let's see now. I use these corrupt translations as study tools or teaching tools, if you will. That's why I have them here. I don't read out of them or anything. So don't get me wrong here. So why's he got that in his house? Well, I use it for training purposes. Okay, so here it is. I dissected this, preface it pretty good, but you see the yellow lines. That's all I'm going to read you there. It says, in regard to the divine name, YHWH, it should be YHUH, commonly referred to as the Tetragrammaton, the translators adopted the device used in most English versions of rendering that name as Lord, or Adonai, or Dominus in Latin. Okay. Then down here it says, also for the sake of clarity or style, nouns, including some proper nouns, are sometimes substituted for pronouns and vice versa. Okay, so they're admitting that they've replaced his true name, okay, with either a device or some sort of substitute name. Okay, and so I got this American Dictionary of the English Language by Noah Webster, 1828 version. And this is a copy. This isn't an original, or I'd be sitting on a fortune here. Okay, so I look, well, what's device? You know what I'm saying? You know what? Device to me is like a cell phone, you know, a radio, something, a walkie-talkie, a watch, you know, in our time. So I'm thinking, well, what's a device? What would this be referring to, device? Okay, and of course you can put cell phones and things under this category for sure. So I looked up device in here, and it says device. That which is formed by design. It's formed by design or invented. It's a scheme. It's artificial contrivance. It's a stratagem. I said stratagem. Oh, what's that? You know, project, something in a good sense. More generally, though, in a bad sense. So device is more generally used as a bad thing, not a good thing, but it can be a good thing. As artifices are usually employed for bad purposes. As devices are usually employed for bad purposes. In a good sense, his device is against Babylon, to destroy it. Okay, so in a good sense, his device is against Babylon to destroy it. Okay, but in a bad sense, he disappoints the device of the crafty. They imagined a mischievous device, an emblem intended to represent a family, person, action, or quality with a suitable motto, used in painting, sculpture, and heraldry. It consists in a metaphorical similitude between the things representing and represented as the figure of a plow representing agriculture. Knights err used to distinguish themselves by devices on their shields. Invention, genius, faculty of devising as a man of noble device, a spectacle or show, deceitful. Okay, so there we go. So then I said, well, I kind of understand most of that, but what's this word stratagem mean? You know, I don't know if I can show you that. You probably can't see it anyway. If you see it in the yellow where it says stratagem there, I got that underlined. So anyway, I said, I got to look that up. So I went to stratagem in this thing, and I looked it up. So it says stratagem. It's in yellow. I don't know if y'all can see it. See, it says stratagem right there. Stratagem. Stratagem. You see it? So stratagem means lead an army. Lead an army. An artifice, particularly in war, a plan or a scheme for deceiving an enemy. Any artifice, a trick by which some advantage is intended to be obtained. So there you go. And I thought, well, is that saying that the devices that were put into these translations are stratagem of the devil? Because we're in a war. He's at a war with us. It's a war strategy, a war plan placed in there by our enemy, our adversary, the devil. And the answer is yes. Yes. So stop using the devil's stratagem to lead you astray. It says he leads the entire world astray through his devices and stratagem. Mind-blowing, isn't it? And when you think of that, and then you apply what we learned, the reason Yahuwah is going to destroy the earth and the Shemayim and the elements will melt is because of the violence against the Torah, the war, the stratagem against the Torah, man. You see that? Mind-blowing stuff, ain't it? Or we got a visitor. How do you do?
Hey, how you doing?
Fine. How are you, sister?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine. Did you come? Did you come with a message or a testimony or questions, or what's happening with you?
Oh, I just was visiting. I think I'm getting a double echo. I'm getting an echo, brother. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you shouldn't be getting one now. I turned my mic off.
Oh, no worries. I didn't know. That's on my end, actually. I still have YouTube, but anyhow. Oh,
You got to turn YouTube off.
okay. Let me leave and I'll try it again. Shalom.
Try you turn YouTube off when you come on here. You can't turn it off unless you come on here first. All righty. Anybody else want to come on? There's the link if you want to come on. Questions, comments, testimonies, anything at all you want to bring up, come on in. Once you get into the StreamYard here on this live broadcast, you have to turn YouTube off where we get them echoes like what was just happening, you know. Anybody else? So yeah, that's quite amazing, man. It really is. Heavy duty information, isn't it? No wonder this stratagem here, if you will, the devices stratagem of the devil and these different translations that are put out there. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there's over 3,000 of them. Well, or more, actually. But if you think about it, we got a visitor. Hang on. Kato, what's up, man?
What's up, man? How you doing, Mark?
What you up to, Kato?
Wondering if I could ask for some prayers.
Yeah, I can't hear you, brother.
Oh, no?
I just barely hear you.
Oh, I know why.
Barely hearing
How
you.
about
There you
that
go.
better?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's happening, man?
Would like to humbly ask for some prayers from our fellowship. My knee's infected from a accident. And yeah, I guess I'm just groveling. How you doing, though? Everything good?
Yeah, I've been doing all right, man. I've been missing you. I noticed you weren't around last week. I was wondering what happened. Did you get yourself hurt, man?
Yeah, I was flew off scooter, and
Oh, no.
you know how people do the splits, like sideways?
Huh?
Only my knees did that.
Ah.
And right onto the curb.
Ah. Ouch.
Yeah. But yeah. I had a few questions. I was wondering if I could ask you tomorrow after they wrap.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem, man. I'll stay on. Just stay on, you know. You know how to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, appreciate the teaching today. It was a kind of a mini wake up call for me too. I've noticed myself like kind of not being on fire. That's a problem, you know.
Yeah, we all go through the phases, you know. It's continue. It's a continue race of endurance, and we go through our little phases, you know, where we're shining bright, you know, and then we start dimming down, and Yahuwah brings us back, and we come back into the light and get bright again. And I think we all do that, at least for a while. You know, once you've been doing it long enough and get more mature in our walk and everything and obedient, I think it settles down and just stays, you know. We don't go through the dramatic up and downs as much in it, you know. So
Yeah.
Everything's a process, right? It's part of the process.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're okay, brother.
Thanks. Yeah. Both my feet are like swollen fat, and I'm hoping it doesn't go to the bone. Then I'm gonna have to lose a leg.
Oh man, oh wait.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But I didn't even know it was an infection until I looked at it. I had pants on, and I'm like, uh-oh.
So did you go to the doctor and get antibiotics and that kind of stuff?
I did, but I think I need the tetanus shot just to be safe. So I'm gonna head over there right now, actually.
Yeah, I would, just to play it safe, man.
Mm.
You know,
That isn't pharmakia, is it? A tetanus shot?
It probably is, but you know what? I don't think everything's evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sorcery.
I think there's some things that are good for us, you know, or for our benefit. You know what I'm saying? And I guess, you know, I mean, what are you going to do? Lay there and get gangrene or something and die, you know, or lockjaw or something? I wouldn't advise that. Yahuwah can bring you back from anything, you know. I mean, if he can raise us from the dead, raise our bones from the dead, man, and give us back immortal body, he can do anything.
Amen.
So I wouldn't worry too much about it myself. I don't get too crazy, but I am a little bit squirrely on some of that stuff, like the jab. You know, I didn't want nothing to do with that thing. And vaccines, I'm kind of iffy on them too.
Yeah.
Other things, but
I don't get why we don't have a medical right in our Constitution. You know, like we don't have a right to our own health.
Well,
it's all going.
Like I say, I think we got to rely on Yahuwah on a lot of that stuff, right?
Absolutely. Trusting him is a big part of this walk.
I just had a tetanus shot last summer. I got one.
It's supposed to be every 5 years or something out here.
I think 5 or 10 or something. I don't know, but I was out fishing with my grandson, and I was trying to get a hook out of it. I caught a bass, pretty good sized bass, and I was pulling this hook, and he flopped.
Oh.
He flopped at just the exact time that hook was coming out, and it stuck me right in the thumb and went deep down into my thumb. So I had to go to the doctor to have them remove that. And of course, I cut the lure off, and it was just the hook there.
Oh.
And so I went to the hospital for them to take that out. And the nurse goes, "When's the last time you had tetanus?" I said, "I really don't remember." She goes, "Are you getting one now?" Bam! She hit me with that tetanus pretty quick, you know, before I can think about it. You know what I mean? But,
all right. Feel better about the shot now.
I mean, I don't feel like I got a demon in me or anything because I got the tetanus shot. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it altered my DNA. Heck, I don't know.
Oof.
I'll just trust in Yahuwah, man, to deliver me from everything. You know, even from my ignorance, the things I do ignorantly. you know?
Yeah. It's a fine line.
Yeah, there's a fine line there. That I can understand a lot of what they say about pharmakia and all that too, you know. So there's a fine line there.
Man, I could talk to you forever, so I think I'm gonna save some of these questions for tomorrow, and we'll go from there. Try to get some rest after this, doctor.
Okay, brother. Get to the doctor, man. Take care of yourself.
Sir.
I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, man. Love you, Mark. Shabbat
Love
shalom.
you too. Bye-bye.
All right.
Anybody else want to come on? Oh, let's see. Make sure there's no questions here. I try to catch all the questions, but sometimes I miss them and then I feel bad, you know. Oh. So I hope everybody learned as much as I did this evening on this study. I thought it was pretty good. Definitely a good reminder for most of us, and those that weren't as familiar, was an eye opener for sure. I'm sure it was. Yeah. The parable of the tangents. That's pretty good. And now back to the regular scheduled Shabbat. Yeah. You guys like the intermission, man? I thought it was kind of cool. Some of your comments are pretty funny. Leaving Phyllis says, "We're picking it up, brother." Yeah. Sometimes I wonder, it's hard, you know, you wonder if you're talking to yourself sometimes. Anybody wants to come on, there's the link. Yeah, that's a good point. I think some may know what's going on is not normal, but they're stricken with shock, fear, and uncertainty and just keep going about in their normal, trying to avoid the chaos, not yet knowing the truth. Yeah, that's important that we know Yahuwah. I mean, he has to call us out of this, right? Come out of her, my people. So he has to bring us out of the delusion, away from the counterfeit or corrupt scriptures, whatever you want to call it. And it really helps when we get our hands on a Hebrew to American translation or reverse translation back into Hebrew, and then translate it into the American language. That's the best way to do it. If you find one like that. So they translate it or reverse translate it all back as far as they can get it back into the Hebrew, you know, which is hard for them to do with Latin because, you know, easier through the Greek back to the Hebrew and then translate it from the Hebrew into American would be a great translation. Most of the, like there's Strong's, right? And everybody knows Strong's and Vine and all that. Strong's, I got Strong's right there, concordance, and a couple of them there, and in a Vine over yonder. But they only are really from the Hebrew and the Greek. You know, they don't even bother with the Latin, so it's hard to, you know, go from Latin, reverse back from Latin back into Hebrew or into Greek and then Hebrew and then back in it. So best just to go straight from a Greek. The oldest Greek into Hebrew and then back into American. And that's what everybody should start doing, man. They're just trying to make money and they're working for the devil, man. With that stratagem, they're involved in the stratagem, the devices, to mislead everybody, lead people astray, and that's sad. Yeah, we got to know Yahuwah. hyphenist? What is a hyphenist? Yeah, I don't see any questions here, guys. Kinsley split, Earl split. Yeah, the divisions are continuing. Yeah, it seems like they're like what they call them, amoebas, those little single cell creatures, and they divide and there's two and they divide and there's four. That's what those denominations are, man. They just keep dividing and dividing and dividing, growing and growing. Usually somebody who's on the board or close to the teacher will have an argument or disagreement with their interpretation with them, and then it'll get heated up to the point where, or maybe he's not getting as much cut, out of the collection as he thinks he should or something, and so then he splits out of there and he goes rents a building and opens up his own congregation, tries to pull as many people out of his old circus that he can just to help him get started, and then they go out and recruit other members and create another denomination. So it's just all about money. That's all they're doing. That's why there's so many of them. Shouldn't be that many divisions. There's only one Torah, one Ruach, one Yahuwah, one body, one salvation, one deliverer, one judge, one lawgiver. There's no need for divisions. We should all be like-minded and in agreement. Can you imagine how the world would be if that was the case? It's the way it's supposed to be. So I see no questions here, you guys. So then I guess I'm going to get off then. Nobody else wants to come on. So what are we studying tomorrow? We're in 2 Thessalonians tomorrow. Should finish it. I think it's only like 3 chapters, ain't there? 3 or 4 in that. Yeah. So we're into 2 Thessalonians tomorrow, the Nazarene Assembly. And there's only 3 chapters. So we should finish it tomorrow, I think, unless we get off on a tangent of sorts. But we set the world record last week. Just use those people that don't know that. Yeah. I think we went a little bit cuckoo for the Torah, cuckoo for Yahusha. So we got, let's see, what did we do last week? Oh, it was 8 hours and 44 minutes and 15 seconds. World record. 425 views. So we probably won't break that record tomorrow, but we'll have a good study. All right. I love spending time with the beloved of Yahuwah. I don't know if there's any other place I'd rather be, but in an assembly in Yahusha's body assembled together with his beloved. What a privilege. What an honor. I love all of you. Okay, so I'll see most of you tomorrow. Zoom at noon, 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Sparking You is Y'all channel right here. Same place, different time. 12 o'clock noon, Eastern Standard Time. 11 o'clock Texas time. Hope everybody got as much out of the studies I did. I really appreciate all of you being here and studying with the scripture with me. It's a fun time. It's an awesome time. It's a set apart time. And I know Yahuwah is with us. And he's taking dictations, notes of everybody who's in here talking about his name and talking about him. He knows who we are. And he's putting us in his book of remembrance stored up as a treasured possession. How wonderful that is. I can't think of anything else to say. So, oh yeah. Remember to stay in love with Yahusha. So long, Natsarim, beloved of Yahuwah. So long, everybody. Peace and love to everybody.